Welcome everyone to Bet What Happens Live. I'm your host, Nick Giffen, predictive analyst here at Action Network. And joining me today, the red hot Gilles Gallant of the Touchdown Show. He's been hitting touchdowns left and right, including an 18-1 2TD bet on TD Higgins. So Gilles, congrats on that, first of all. And more, you hit Kyler Murray 3-1 in this Arizona San Francisco game, which is what we're going to focus on right now, since they just hit halftime. So what are we looking at for player props here, Gilles?
Well, I mean, the first thing I just want to acknowledge in this game, like Kyler Murray, he has 66 rushing yards on 3 attempts. 50 yards was off of that first rush. And, right now, when we were talking coming into this game, now trailing by 13, Cardinals are probably going to have to throw a lot more here in this spot. So
Yeah.
first thing I wanted to do was to just keep it simple. Let's just look at Kyler's passing yards, maybe some guys that might have some subsidiary. But first, let's look at Kyler Murray's passing yards, see if maybe we can find an edge on that spot here. I'm just going to pull up the odds here in 1 second.
He has 131 passing yards right now. 272.5 is what I see at FanDuel
Exactly.
for the line. And we are projecting 283.5. Now, Arizona does start with the ball in the second half, so I think we should take the over on that one if you think so.
I think so as well. But the thing is I want to take the over on that. So let's put that as one of the official picks, over 272.5 for Kyler.
Minus 114 at FanDuel, over 272.5 Kyler Murray passing yards.
But now rushing yards, because I still am of the idea that if they're going to be throwing a lot, he's going to be back and he's just going to take off and scramble right now. He has 66 rushing yards. The total is at 80.5. I mean, he could get that off of one carry. So I'm wondering what's the value on that at this point, especially if there's going to be a lot more passing opportunities.
Yeah, my model doesn't handle QB rushing very well, so that one's always a gut feel call. It shows value to the under, but again, it's kind of not quite attuned for QB rushing. It's more of a RB rushing model.
Well, and I mean, for me, like I don't want to say I would override the model, but I know what I'm seeing right now, and right now
Yeah,
he can run on this defense. So I want to take the over on Kyler Murray's rushing yards right now at 80 and
absolutely.
a half. I already have him, I already cashed him rather for a touchdown. So right now for the second touchdown, it's not really, showing a ton of value. We could talk more about touchdowns here in a minute. But right now, I really like Kyler to go over his rushing yards and his passing yards in the second half, trailing by 13 points.
So Kyler Murray, where is that one? Is
For
that at
rushing yards,
yeah,
yeah, right now I'm seeing 80.5 at Bet365. I'm just going to
there you
pull up
go.
other, and because it's 83.5 at
Yeah.
FanDuel. So you want to take the 80.5 at Bet365 if you can get it there. Just want to check DraftKings just to make sure that
Yeah,
we're not
DraftKings is
overlooking it.
84.5.
Yeah, so
But
go to the
80 and a
80 and a
half
half.
at Bet365. If you have FanDuel, 83.5 would be your next best bet there. So Kyler Murray over 80.5 rushing yards at Bet365, minus 115 on the juice on that is Gilles' second bet. And I do like that. You're not really, like I said, not really going against the model, because the model isn't attuned for QB rushing yards with the scrambles. It's more attuned for designed runs there. So just based off designed runs, it likes Kyler Murray to still have a chance to get some yards here, which would put him up around 78.5. So then you add in some scrambles. I do think I like that.
Now, the one thing I was going to say though, and I want to ask, because with the model, with your model, the passing opportunities are going to increase here in the second half, especially
Definitely.
with Kyler. But I don't want to completely exclude James Conner right now, who hasn't really done much in the first half, but his over under rushing yards right now is 30.5. He has 9 rushing yards coming into halftime, and his over under was 58.5. So I mean, I still think that James Conner, even though they're not necessarily going to be passing or running every down, I still think he has a little bit of value in the second half for potentially an over on that. So I wanted to see what the model says about James Conner and the Cardinals' rushing attack.
Yeah, 29.5 at DraftKings, 29.5 at FanDuel, minus 114 to the over. We're showing 58.5% to the over, and the Cardinals start with the ball. So I don't hate a bet on that one as well.
I'm going to keep going, man. Like, I really like this Cardinals offense. I think the Niners defense, again, they're just like, obviously they had that pick with Nick Bosa, but they've been able to move the ball on this defense. So I want to take the over on James Conner or his rushing yards at 30 and a half, or 29 and a
29 and
half
a half,
rather,
yeah.
at
Minus
draft.
114, minus 114 on the juice at FanDuel, which is a little bit better than the 115 at DraftKings if you have that. So Kyler Murray, or sorry, not Kyler Murray, James Conner over 29 and a half rushing yards, minus 114 at FanDuel. And just to tie up something on that, 80 and a half for Kyler Murray. BetMGM also has 80 and a half there. So another option there. That shout outs to the chat here on YouTube. Gives yourselves a thumbs up for pointing that out. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button on this video so we can keep doing these, especially on the Sunday slates, which is a new addition this year. And make sure to give a thumbs up for the red hot Gilles Gallant. Also, I'm 5-1-1 on my bets today so far. The only loss was a 27-1 first touchdown sprinkle. So really 5-0-1 on the real bets. So give a thumbs up for that as well. We'll try to get you some live winners here. What else are we looking at, Gilles, for this Cardinals 49ers game before we still have plenty of time, but still before we transition over to Green Bay versus Los Angeles?
Well, before I want to look at the touch, I keep looking at these rushing yards, and Debo had one rushing attempt, I believe, in the first half. I just want to double, no, so he had two for 9 rushing yards right now. And again, I keep going back to that. The over-under right now, I'm seeing 13 and a half at one sports book. I'm seeing 14 and a half at another, and 14 and a half as well. But again, I think they're going to keep. I'm not sure how much Jordan Mason is going to be used in the second half. And I think Garendo, like right now, they don't have any Garendo lines up. We'll talk about that in a second for touchdown scores. But I think Debo could get that again off of just one carry.
Yes.
Is there any value looking at him for over rushing yards for Debo?
There is. We have 60% to the over for Debo Samuel. Now, the 49ers don't start with the ball here, but I still like that. Like you said, he can grab that on one run. And with Arizona starting with the ball, I'd say it's probably more like 56%, 57% to the over if I take the average amount of elapsed time on a drive. So I like it, but it would, to beat the juice, it would probably have to be, up to you. But I do like over 13 and a half.
I'm loving the overs in this game right now. Yeah. So I think I'm going to put that one in as well. So that's over 13 and a half rushing yards for Debo. Only needs five more yards rather to clear this. Do you want to talk about touchdown scores now?
Yeah,
because
let me just wrap that up. So Debo Samuel over 13 and a half rushing yards. You can get that minus 110 at Bet365. Otherwise, I see 14 and a halves out there on FanDuel and DraftKings. DraftKings having well, not anymore, but had the little bit better juice. Now FanDuel has a little bit better juice on over 14 and a half. So touchdowns, right, Gilles?
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about this. Garendo right now, I'm seeing him at FanDuel at plus 850 to score a second half touchdown. I'm just going to look up other spots here just to make sure I'm not over. 11-1 at DraftKings right now for Garendo to have a touchdown in the second half.
Yeah, we're not quite there, but we're not going to be. That would be one of those spots where if this game does blow out, then I, would certainly like it more. But right now, with Arizona starting with the ball, it might not blow out. So this would be a spot where I'd want to wait, see what happens early in the second half. And if San Francisco continues to open this up, you might be able to get some value on an Isaac Garendo anytime touchdown live.
Well, what about the starters then? If we're going to see the starters out there, we have Debo around plus 310. We have Brandon Ayuk, who's been just catching everything his way right now at plus 500. I want to just double check those lines to make sure. So 475, 330 on Debo at DraftKings and plus 500 on Ayuk right now are the two Niners that I would be targeting right now for a touchdown. Is any of those showing value?
We're showing really thin value on both if it was San Francisco having the ball, but with Arizona having the ball, not quite. Now, what about Jordan Mason? Do we have odds on his touchdown scoring?
We do, yeah. And
plus 160?
At FanDuel, yeah. Right now is plus 160 would be the best odds. Right now it's plus 130 at DraftKings, plus 120.
We're taking plus 160 at FanDuel. We're showing plus 107 as fair value on Jordan Mason. So 1 unit, Jordan Mason, anytime touchdown, plus 160 at FanDuel. I don't even need to wait for Gilles on that one. I was even going to say, coming into the games this week,
he had the highest touchdown odds of the week. He was around
Yeah.
minus 200, more than Derrick Henry. So he's definitely going to be used, I think, in the second half, especially if the Niners, if they get away from kicking, if they're going to not use their punter there in the second half for kicking. But
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, so Jordan Mason at plus 160. Right now, obviously, I think the Niners are going to have to, or pardon me, the Cardinals are going to throw the ball a little bit more. Marvin Harrison has 3 touchdowns over his last 3 games, or 4 touchdowns rather over his last 3 games. And Marvin Harrison's around plus 270 for an anytime touchdown. Trey McBride at plus 490. I'm looking at more at the starters because Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch are around plus 500 to plus 550. I'm not really sure if they're showing value because that was close to what
Michael
their odds
Wilson
were pregame.
is Michael Wilson at 5 to 1. We have it plus 465 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I see, yeah, plus 500, I think is the best on him from what I'm looking at. So I don't mind that, especially with Arizona having the ball here and trailing and having to throw a bunch. Michael Wilson 5 to 1. If you want to do it, I'm in.
Well, I was going to say, like, what's the value then on Dortch? Because then what I was going to say is maybe we
Yeah,
put
we
a
don't have
half unit
value
on
on
it.
Dortch.
Okay, because I was going to say you could put like half unit on each kind of thing and cover
Right,
both
right.
bases. But Wilson, I think, is getting obviously more of the playing time so far in the first half. So yeah, let's do just a half unit on Wilson
Well, here's what
for
we
an
could do.
anytime
We could do
touchdown.
half on Wilson and half on Trey McBride. He's still healthy, right?
He was he's plus 490. I mean,
Yeah.
they're pretty close in odds, pretty much. And
Yeah,
from a
let's do Trey McBride at plus 490 at FanDuel and Michael Wilson 5 to 1 at FanDuel. And we'll do half a unit on each. That way we get what you want, but we're doing it with the ones we're showing value on in the model.
Well, and that's kind of why I was just trying to think. I wanted just to be able to cover 2 pass catching
Yep.
options
Yep.
for the Cardinals going into the second half. So at least that will keep us covered. Um, yeah, right now, man, like just of those 2 games, like the touchdown scores, I feel like we're set. The
Mhm.
only thing that I was kind of looking at is what's Brock Purdy's situation in the Niners second half from a model, like as far as passing goes? Is their passing metrics supposed to drop off in the second half based on only being up 13 points? Because I was
Yeah, it
kind of
is.
looking at, because right now he's at 165 passing yards. His
Mhm.
over under is around 263 and a half. Coming into the game, it's pretty sharp. It was actually 262. So the fact that he's at 263 is the live
Yep.
over underline is pretty cool. But is there anything where maybe we want to fade the Niners passing attack for the week?
No, we're right at 270, but of course the Niners don't start with the ball. So when you adjust for that, we're right in line with the market there on Brock Purdy passing yards. I'm looking at interceptions, not even value on his interception prop, nor Kyler Murray's.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Because I
that'll
mean,
wrap it up on the Arizona San Francisco game, unless you got something else in this one, Jill.
no, I got the touchdown bets that I wanted, and that was the thing is that I really wanted to just keep backing Kyler here in the second half to keep pushing it here. So I think we can move on to Packers Rams if you're ready.
Alrighty. So Packers versus Rams right now. We have the Green Bay Packers trailing on the road in LA. If you can call it a road game in LA for the Rams, right? But they're trailing by a score of 13-10. And on the money line, looks like minus 156 for the Rams, plus 122 for the Packers. So that'll get me my game state here set up. And all right, with that setup, it looks like the Packers are going to be pretty neutral. I don't have them passing or rushing any more than their pregame expectation, and the Rams are set to run only about 3% more than their pregame expectation. So overall, pretty neutral game state here compared to our pregame projections. So a lot of what we liked pregame, we could potentially like in the second half as well.
Well, you knew I was going to ask you about this. I asked you about it before. Right now, Rams are obviously ahead, but not by a lot. Matt Stafford has not thrown an interception yet in this game. And coming into this game, the Packers were one of the best teams as far as pass defended goes, interception rate per drop back. I want to know, should we be looking at Stafford around plus 190 for an interception here in the second half?
You know, it's funny. We have Matthew Stafford at plus 190. So right
Right
in
on the
line with the
nose, eh?
market. That is right in line with the market on Matthew Stafford. Let me just check a couple other books just to make sure we're covering all our bases here. That's not the right game. I clicked on Seattle versus New York. Let me go over
I
to.
have plus 200 right now at DraftKings, and I'm just checking BetMGM. It's off. Bet 365.
And the Rams do start with the ball here, so a little extra value. So 2-1 at DraftKings, we have some value on.
If you don't do it, I'm probably still going to do it, but only a half unit then because
All
at
right, we'll
plus
do it. We'll
200.
do
Yeah.
half a unit. Matthew Stafford to throw an interception, 2-1 at DraftKings. So Gilles, I like that one. I'm not rooting for it because, I make my live bets smaller than my pregame bets, and I want Jordan Love to go over his passing attempts prop. So I need the Rams to continue leading.
Well, on that note, then let's start with Jordan Love. Let's go right at the
Yep.
top with passing yards. Right now, seeing 264.5 at one book. Yeah, right now 260.5 at FanDuel. And yeah, that's pretty much, I think 260.5 is the best one of the
We're right in
four.
line between both of those. We have a 263.5.
Okay, so yeah, not a ton of an edge then. All right, then. Well, if we're thinking that he's still going to be able to put up some more yards, somebody who got super hyped coming into this game because of all the injuries ahead of him was Dontavian Wicks. And Dontavian Wicks saw his yardage prop go from 40.5 to 50.5. Now he has, I believe, only 10 receiving yards with one catch on 4 targets. So he's still second most targeted. And the live over under for his receiving yards, I believe, was 30.5. I just want to double check this, 37.5. So I wanted to look to see if there's any way that we can invest on some Dontavian Wicks overs with how he hasn't really been used that much so far in the first half.
Yeah, 37.5. We're dead on with the market. Let me just check a couple other books to see if there's value anywhere else. 39.5 would be pretty much right on with the market. So it looks like we're going to be right in line with the market on Dontavian Wicks. It doesn't really matter what book because yard or two here isn't going to be too much of a difference.
All right, then. So if we have if we're looking at the Rams and they're going to be throwing a little bit more, and Stafford is going to probably throw an interception for us to hit. I am looking, we'll probably talk about it more maybe for Colby Parkinson for touchdown scorer props, but right now his over under for yardage is 20.5. And he's been targeted in this game. He I believe he has
6
3
receiving
targets.
yards. Yep.
Yeah, 4 targets rather, but 2 of those were in the end zone there and he almost could have had a touchdown there. That's who I was kind of considering maybe wanted to take an over on because right now, Tutu Atwell, you're probably going to be banking on more of a longer catch against this defense. And, Demarcus Robinson hasn't really been used much. Jordan Whittington, same thing. But Colby Parkinson is kind of who I would be looking at on if we were going to be taking an over.
We have 56% to the over. The Rams do start with the ball here. And he's 8-1 for an anytime touchdown. I have plus 640. So I took him pregame.
I know,
but I love the double dip here on Bet What Happens Live, especially if you didn't take him pregame. If you took him pregame, you don't have to double dip. But as far as Bet What Happens Live is concerned, you're gonna do a quarter unit on Colby Parkinson anytime touchdown, 8-1 at FanDuel. Do you want to also add in his yards or not, Jill?
I think I just want to go for the touchdown, especially when seeing so far the intent of what Stafford when he's looking for him, which seems to be more within the 20. So I don't really want to bank on him for an open field catch. I'd rather bank on him at 8-1, and then we only have to invest a quarter unit into it.
There you go.
But right now, Jaden Reed in this game, I mean, he had 5 or 4 big catches. He's gotten a carry as well. So total yards, 78. He has 86. I was looking at his rushing and receiving yards, and I'm just going to get this up right now.
Yeah, he has 8 rushing yards, 78 receiving yards.
We had it here. I guess
and
I can't. Yeah,
114.5 is his live line at FanDuel for receiving yards. We look at DraftKings, it is receiving yards, 116.5.
Right.
And
it's
the Packers don't start with the ball here. So the Packers don't start with the ball here. And 116.5 is the line. We're actually showing value on the under on his receiving yards. So
I think we did this exact bet last week when they were playing the Vikings.
And then he came back on like the final drive. Yeah, we did this exact bet. Little gun shy, but
But
it
well, the
is what it
value is
is.
value. I think it was just more of the fact that like he's that explosiveness that's just what scares you comparatively to like say like Tucker Craft or Dontavian Wicks. Like Jaden Reed is the real deal. Yeah, I think I would look at the under there, but right now, oh, I was going to mention as well, Colby Parkinson. If you were going to take his yardage prop, it's down to 19.5 now at FanDuel if you wanted to take the over. But yeah, Jaden Reed, I'd be with you on fading the under there on the rushing receiving if there's enough of an edge for you from a model standpoint.
Yeah, well, let me look at that. Do we have a rushing plus receiving on him? Jaden Reed. I don't see any there. Let me look over here. Rushing plus receiving. You always
Yeah, I
have
don't think
to,
they I don't think they chop them up that way. I think it's just
yeah,
oh, here we
126 and
go.
a half at DraftKings. And I have projected for his rushing plus receiving. I have to click all these different cells here. Um, I have 125. So
Ooh,
right
right on
in
the
line with the
nose.
market on it. Yeah. So really I like, if we're gonna take anything, we would want to take his receiving only under.
Yes,
But
let's do that then. If
all
that's the
right.
case, because right now it's yeah, it's 114 and a half around there, maybe 115. That would
It
be
was 116 and a half at DraftKings unless it moved. Let me check that one. Did it move at DraftKings? 115 and a half now, but minus 110 to the under. And the Packers don't start with the ball. So
yeah, let's do
115 and a
it.
half under.
Yeah, let's
Jaden
do it.
Reed receiving yards minus 110 at DraftKings. Of course, make sure to shop around. We're mostly just checking DraftKings, FanDuel, Gilles on Bet365. So,
Bet MGM, yeah,
but
for
yeah, if you
sure.
have BetMGM, ESPN Bet, Caesars, check all of them. Check whatever you can. But that's what we have right now. So, what else are we looking at here for Green Bay versus LA? Well, they just started the second half here, Gilles.
Oh, did they?
Yep.
Well then. Because I was going to suggest, I was like, last one was coming into this game. Rams were last in DVOA to tight ends. I was like, is there any value on a Tucker Craft touchdown? That would have been the last one I would have suggested.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's take one last look. Tucker Craft, we have for his touchdown odds plus 408. Let's
Seeing
see.
5-1 right now at
Yeah,
three
five to
different
one at
books.
5 to 1 at multiple books. So you want to do it?
I do. That's the last one.
All right. Well, it just went off the board. We'll wait for it to pop back on, but there it is. 5 to 1 at FanDuel, 5 to 1 at multiple books. Tucker Craft quarter unit on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Tucker Craft 5 to 1 anytime touchdown. So that'll do it for this Bet What Happens Live. Couple games in here to follow and root for, and hopefully we'll hit a few more touchdown bets because Gilles, you've been hitting them all day. So thanks for joining me, Gilles. Thank you everyone in chat for joining me. Make sure to hit that thumbs up one more time, and we'll be back here tomorrow night for Monday Night Football Bet What Happens Live. Until then, good luck with your bets, everybody, and enjoy the games.